And I'm interested in talking about the fact that when bottlenecks get visualized, that's when stuff starts to happen. But I can also imagine that if you're a team that is starting to track that work item age and figures out there's like 5 bottlenecks in your process and you get overwhelmed, you don't know where to start in order to affect change and see improvement. So how do you decide what to address first? Andrea, I'll come to you for this one. Maybe you've seen this across different teams. How do you prioritize which bottleneck to start with first, especially when you're dealing with fixed resources, fixed budgets? You may not be able to tackle them all. So how do you prioritize bottlenecks?
Yeah, I think it's important to go back to the purpose of the system that you're trying to improve. What is the goal of this whole thing that we have now visualized? How do we know that it's working, and how will we know that it's working better? And then which of the bottlenecks that we have identified is constraining that success metric the most? And so if we don't know the goal of the system, we can't decide where to focus first, right? So the whole theory of constraints concept comes from the book The Goal, and that's why it's called that, right? You have to know the goal in order to optimize the system for achieving that goal. And the metaphor that I think is really, really powerful in thinking about this is a traffic jam, right? So if you have like a 5-lane highway that goes down to 1 lane, and you decide to work on adding more cars to the 5-lane part, but you didn't fix the 1-lane bottleneck part, you didn't improve the system if your goal is to get more cars to this side, right? So you really have to figure out, if my goal was to get more cars to the other side of this little bridge part, then I have to widen the bridge. That's the only way to improve my success factor of getting more cars across. But if my goal was just to have more cars, then okay, great. We could add more cars to any part of it, and then we're getting better. And especially once we are looking at constraints in terms of resources, budget, time, we can actually make our lives worse if we're putting things, adding more things to the wrong parts of the system. We might be just making a bigger backup, right? In wherever the bottleneck is. And I think this is, we haven't said the word AI on this conversation yet. And so I think we have to say it or we'll get some sort of fine. But yeah, I think this is where people make the mistake with AI a lot, right? Is we just sort of throw it around and apply it willy-nilly in our teams and in our processes without thinking about where it might actually help us the most, right? We should apply it at the bottleneck and only at the bottleneck first, and then put it in elsewhere in the system, right? If we use AI to make more cars without making the bridge wider, we're not helping anything, right? And so we might be spending money and training and time and effort on teaching people to use AI in the wrong parts of the system. So really, really important to understand, what are we trying to accomplish here, and apply strategically our effort to improve that bottleneck that's constraining us the most from reaching that goal.